this week, Nebraska canceled the football series with Tennessee, as you know, and we're going to let you follow along here with us as we go. It had been on the books for nearly 20 years for Tennessee and Nebraska to play in 2026 and 2027. Nebraska is going to pay Tennessee $1 million for the two games that they canceled. Their athletic director said that with stadium renovations going on in Lincoln, they needed the money from an eighth home game in 2027 to help cover it all, so they had to cancel both games to get rid of that 2027 game. All right. This leaves Tennessee scrambling to find a new power conference foe in 2026 and 2027 because the SEC wants everybody to play at least one. Danny White was ticked off, and boy, he wanted everyone to know about it. When the cancellation was reported by Pete Thamel, it was written that, the two teams have canceled this series. Danny White clicked into Twitter and wrote, "Correction, Tennessee is not canceling this series. Nebraska did. We are very disappointed that they didn't want to play these games, especially this close to 2026. All right. Then he goes and talks to the Knoxville News Sentinel, and he says, "I think it's kind of unprecedented to pull out of a home series this late with this little notice. So I'm annoyed by it. Home and home series against power conference opponents are scheduled out a decade in advance, and this one has been on the docket for like 20 years. Actually, White scheduled it at home and home with Washington when he first got here, so it's usually about 5 to 8 years, not necessarily decades out, but still." He then went to VolQuest and summed it up with, "You really can't pull an audible this late in the game." Now, to be crystal clear, Nebraska gave Tennessee 19 months' notice, February of 25 for September of 26. That's the audible, so 19 months. And that's why I will misquote my favorite piece of literature and say, "The athletic director doth protest too much, methinks." Here's why I say that. September 21st, 2021, White and Tennessee canceled a September 2022 game with Army. That's not 19 months, that's less than 12 months. He brought in Akron instead. The 2022 Congressional Medal of Honor winners would have been honored at that game. In fact, the annual Medal of Honor Society convention had been scheduled for that week in Knoxville. So it was a big deal to cancel that one. Tennessee paid Army $500,000 per the game. Same thing Nebraska's going to pay Tennessee per game. Tennessee also put out the word at the time that the cancellation of that game had actually started under Philip Fulmer and Jeremy Pruitt. Maybe so, but when the Sentinel did a records request, they found the piece of paper canceling the series had Danny White's signature on it. And in terms of power conference teams that aren't scared to play Army, the last 3 years, Army has played Wake Forest, Syracuse, Boston College, LSU, and Notre Dame. None of those schools switched them out for Akron. Fast forward to May 16 of 2022. And what you got there, Tennessee announced that they and BYU had agreed to cancel the last game of their home and home series schedule for 2023. 16 months out, not 19 like Nebraska gave you. You know what's more rare than a school canceling a home and home series the year before it starts? A school playing their end of a home and home series and then canceling the return game a year out. That is very rare. UT said the cancellation was mutual, but at the time, I did some extensive research, folks, real Woodward and Bernstein stuff. I went to my internet, my website, my web browser, and I looked up Salt Lake Tribune. And there I found that the Utah press made it pretty clear it was not a mutual cancellation. BYU had cleared out other games to keep the UT game as part of their deal. The AD, when asked about it, simply declined to comment on the matter. Tennessee paid BYU $2 million from ticket fees for the Virginia game. And for those of you this week who jumped on board and had fun with Nebraska and mocked them for being scared, it has nothing to do with money, it's because you're chicken. I remind you of what Danny White said when he talked about changing from BYU to Virginia. "Our fans have heard me talk about the importance of finding new revenue to grow our operating budget, and playing Virginia at Nissan Stadium is an opportunity for a net positive revenue game." The reality is, and that's what we're dealing in here, this isn't one of the news networks where I'm just going to tell you what you want to hear. I am going to trust that you're adults and you want facts, and the facts are Tennessee gave Army and BYU less notice than Nebraska gave Tennessee. If Danny White hadn't made a big noise about this, I would be sitting here today saying, boy, I don't like the fact that Nebraska did this. I didn't like it when Tennessee backed out of games. I don't like Nebraska backing out of games. But instead, because Danny White has been loud with this, I'm forced to ask, why are you so loud with this when you did the same thing? I like Danny White. I think he's the best thing to happen to Tennessee in ages. If we were going to do a topic on your radio show, who's the most impactful guy in your lifetime, I would put Danny White on that for what he's done. And I don't like teams backing out. So I wouldn't like Nebraska backing out of this. I don't like Nebraska backing out of this. But I also don't like very loud hypocrisy. And to me, I just ran through the notes. You gave other schools less time than they gave you. So I'm asking, what am I wrong about? And if I'm wrong, let me know.
Hey, look, I don't think you're wrong about this. I think that I ripped Tennessee when they canceled the BYU series. I ripped Nebraska when they canceled the Tennessee series. I just think, stop doing that. That's soft. You're doing it. It's cowardice. That's why you're doing it. Cowardice. The other side of it is, though, when people usually are loud on social media or are trying to give a quote about a specific thing, my initial thought, because I guess I've been doing this a while, and I was trained by Jimmy Hyam, sharing an office with him for 10 years, is, okay, what are you really doing behind the scenes that you're using this noise to give cover for? And so I don't know that Danny White's even that mad about this with Nebraska, but it's a way to gain some points with the fan base by kind of being a populist and raising a little heck about the fact that Nebraska canceled this series.
Right. And that's what I wonder about is the populist.
Well, two points on this. I think that his peeved meter was raised because the SEC and the Big Ten are trying to form this alliance. And I think he was bothered by that. I'm not saying it's justified. I think that's a part of why he came out so loudly. Here's the other thing, too. People around the country don't care when or who the AD was when Tennessee canceled some of these games. They canceled North Carolina game. So they're going to look at Tennessee like, what are you whining about? You're a program that not only did this to BYU and Army, but North Carolina. So why are you complaining? So I don't think he's going to get much sympathy nationally.
In Nebraska, you wonder how much their coach Matt Rule is behind this, and they're using it as the guise of stadium renovation and expansion. So our stadium can't hold enough for us to play Tennessee, but we can book, Miami. What is it? Miami to come in here. We can book Bowling Green to come in.
Yeah.
So the late notice. Hey, Danny Fee's charging a talent fee now, right? I think he's speaking to the people who pay that talent fee, that we're charging more. But now what are you going to do now?
That's it.
From a Nebraska standpoint, I think this is Troy Dannon, who has not had much of a backbone since replacing Trey Vallerts and letting kind of Matt Rule just do what he wants to do from the crazy comments about canceling spring practice. They're going to come in and get our guys. Yeah. And Dannon's been kind of like, I'm going to do what I want. From a Danny White standpoint, I take the Army standpoint as, all right, this was already in motion. I'm the new AD. I'm just going to come in and sign off on this while I'm still getting comfortable. Not that it's excusable, but that's how I'm taking that.
There's nothing for you to work on in the Army game, right?
Yeah, exactly. The BYU game, super soft. Super soft, especially when you already got your home game. I made gentleman's agreement, and I understand it's still dollars and cents. There's no business for you not to go out and return the favor in Provo.
And it does make me wonder, though, all of this happening, are we going to get that Big Ten SEC scheduling partnership?
That's what I
think he wants, because some schools don't want it now. Also, what you do is lose a home game. And if it's all about having the home game, and you go play some, Chucky Doak or Powell Valley, then just to get a home game, then are we really going to see us go to 9 and then people lose a home game every other year?
Chucky Doak may be my favorite name in the world.
Thank you.
I just love Chucky Doak.
I used to be called that when I was young.
But I was just going to say the issue, one, on the Army thing, they didn't have anything to work on. Neither did Notre Dame, LSU, Syracuse, BC, or Wake Forest, who didn't chicken out against Army. Right. And none of those schools, to my knowledge, had the Congressional Medal of Honor Society coming to that town that week that you canceled on. But I think Chuck hit on it. I think Danny White enjoys he can go on Twitter, and hashtag Vol Twitter gets behind him on anything. And he likes, they're doing this to us. Yeah.
Get the popular
and everybody goes, yeah. My problem is, I think Vol fans should get behind him. I think he's been an excellent athletic director. I don't think you should get behind him when he's not telling you when he's being hypocritical. Yeah. I don't like the fact that Tennessee went out, this is crap. Well, no, you did the same thing. Right. Oh, the problem is, I don't know how many people are saying, they're just going to say, I don't care. It's still crap because it's Tennessee. That kind of stuff, it bothers me when my Patriots fans do it. It bothers me when Celtics fans do it. It bothers me when politics do it. It's like, at some point, you have to be able to say, okay, he's my guy and I love him. You're going too far because you did the same thing to this other school. I'm not going to go rip Nebraska on Facebook when we did the same thing to BYU. Unfortunately, I live in la-la land, and that's not how this world works, where we live in silos.
Where you're going to go, I'm going to go different directions.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you want to. Could this all be a work? And where Tennessee's about to have a year without a power conference opponent. They've already worked something out with maybe a former offensive coordinator here.
Yeah, we'll get there.
And this is all just let's create some noise, and then.
Do you really think he's sitting there playing that
I don't know
3D
that
chess?
he's doing it. It's somebody else doing
Well,
it
he's the one
that's
Yeah.
involved in marketing.
Well-
that this is a good way to market this.
I'm not as cynical as you are when it comes to
I'm very
we're going to go out and we're going to create this false flag operation. I don't buy the conspiracy, but anyway, maybe.
Well, I think he may be upset, but I think it's also we need the noise to make sure because something happened because Alex Golesh tweeted right behind Danny White saying that about Play Us. I think some of this might be cover for
Hey.
that.
Okay, end it.
Really looking forward to a bunch of my friends who live in Seattle when we have to tell them, oh, by the way, the Washington series has been canceled as well. So we'll wait for the future show for us to talk about that because I was looking forward to the 29-30
Well, I
back and
don't
forth with the
know.
Huskies.
Now people are going to think they're actually canceling.
No,
it.
no, they're
That's
not canceling it, but I just feel what down the road's going to happen where you're going to eliminate all the juicy competition that's supposed to be coming down the pike.
Who are
do
you
wonder
going to
what
get to
Greg-
fill? Yeah. Who are you going to get to fill that spot? You're getting
We're gonna
$500
get there in
grand for
the
each
next segment
game.
if we'll shut up now.
Set it up, baby.
I do wonder if Greg Sankey's had any conversation with the Big Ten commissioner about this. I'd be
I
interested
don't
in that.
know. I just to me that they were supposed to talk about a Big Ten SEC possible scheduling factor, and then
Right,
they went
right.
to New Orleans and met this week,
Yeah.
and it was immediately not on the table. So
Yeah.
it was not even considered. So I don't know if that's what made Danny White mad that it wasn't considered, or that it was considered and they didn't talk about it seriously. I don't know.